Hello everybody, in our continuing pursuit to understand Omnisphere and what we can do with it to shape our sound, today we're going to take a look at the Waveshaper section. So in previous videos we've covered what we can do with the FM and ring modulation to shape our sound, but the Waveshaper provides another tool in that arsenal. So what does the Waveshaper do to our sound? Well, it in short changes the waveform's harmonic content. And it achieves this by taking the waveform from the oscillator, this bit here, and passing it through mathematically generated curves that add various types of distortion. Okay, so what makes this different is that instead of being a standalone effect, Spectrosonics has made it part of this oscillator section. So this provides more harmonic richness without artifacts and that can creep in when playing chords. Using it as an effect in this way would, so if you, what I'm going to say is, if you're going to use this as an effect instead of as part of the oscillator, it would give you monophonic distortion. So that would be great for a single sound like a guitar, synthesizer, or whatever, but it's absolutely terrible for chords. It just doesn't work. So enough of me waffling. Let's see what we can do with wave shaping. First of all, let's just whiz up a quick sound. Let's go for a sound wave. Well, no, we'll stick with saw because you hear the effects better with the saw. Because it's harsh, you see, whereas sine's quite soft. So we go with a, it's because of double click. That's why that keeps on popping up. Rich and Moogie. As everybody knows, I quite like a Rich and Moogie. Turn the cuts off up a bit, turn the res up, turn the filter down a bit, get a bit more plucky, there we go, and we're off. So the Waveshaper, so we just gauge the Waveshaper. So what we're going to look at first is the crusher. This is like what we heard when looking at the oscillators on the main sort of page in one of my early videos, which I'll just be going across the top about now. So it essentially adds a bit crushing effect to your sound by adding digital distortion to really make it crush, though you can use this crush force. So this is what it sounds like. And you think, not an awful lot's happening, because I need to increase the depth. So we'll come to this parameter in a minute, but I'll just... Here's a slight tonal difference. Now if I put the crush force up, so if I put it about halfway and bring the crush force up, and I just make it more pronounced. So crush force there, so as it's saying Star Wars, use the force, Luke. Yeah, okay, it's a bit cheesy, but there we go. Enough cheese for today. So what we're moving to is the shaper section now. I just slightly touched on it and passing the parameters when I was talking without actually talking. While I was playing without actually talking and telling you what I was doing. So we'll come back to that now. What this does, the depth, is just provides how strong the overall effect is to your sound. So the more you add, so this is more sort of it's like your mix knob, if you get what I mean, as how much effect you want from the Waveshaper in general. And what you can also change the aggressiveness of this by just selecting the logarithms at the bottom here. So you got 1 to 4 and the preset logarithms, and the 1 being the lowest and 4 being the strongest. So there we go. So onto the reducer section, which this allows us to apply sample rate reduction to your sound. So this is great to get your 8-bit retro sounds from yesteryear. So see how it is. There you go. nice sort of computerized 8-bit sounds coming in there. And your animation slider provides a sort of like dynamic character, changes over time. I've got it up to extreme so you can actually hear what this animation does to the sound. What I should say actually when it comes to mine is this depth slider back here, even if you set it to 0, it's still going to colour your sound. So if you don't want wave shaping to be involved whatsoever in your sound design, make sure you turn it off there, otherwise you're going to get some kind of effect. I've turned depth down a bit, you can hear it's being affected now. The only way I can get it is turn it off. Even if I turn the type off, it still has an effect of some kind. So I'll just turn that up to 4 and just bring the depth up a bit, and there we go. So we've looked at the reducer section, and the animation, as I was saying, provides a dynamic character which changes over time. So if you want to place a Waveshaper at the filter stage instead of the oscillator stage of the sound, you can do this by clicking on the auto path here. So at the moment I've got the oscillator section, so it does what it says on the tin. So if I want it on the filter section, and if I want it on the amp section, so yeah, there we go. And if you don't want it to be sort of really in your face, the Waveshaper, and more subtle, just turn the mix down. So what you could do very quickly is modulate that with an LFO, say. So sync that twice. Won't go mad on the depth, and I don't want it all the way. Gonna go a bit fast on the rate. Come on, rate. Come on, rate. 1 to 1. There we go. Alright, not great as inspiring sound, but it just gives you an idea of how you could actually modulate the mix to give your sound a little bit more crunch. I'll just modulate that for a moment. Modulate, there we go. And your gain does what it says on the tin, really makes it louder. Nothing absolutely exciting there. So if that's not enough for you to play with, we've actually got some presets in this section. These range from useful to a little bit too much sort of wave shape of my liking. But gets you to a starting point. So for instance, axe grinder, that's fine. I think that's a little bit too much for my liking, so all I would do is just turn the gain down a bit, turn the mix down a bit, and just to give it a bit more of a sound presence. So we can do all sorts with the presets there. So as I end a lot of my videos, I do a little bit of sound designing, just something simple, nothing absolutely out of this, off the planet. And what I like to do is use the techniques we've covered so far, sort of like the oscillator, the ring mod, FM mod, and as they say in good old Blue Peter, here's one I prepared earlier. So false relation, and come out of that, and it sounds something like this. So nothing absolutely out of the world, but it serves a purpose. And what we've got here, we've got a sine wave with Richard Mogi 3 fill tone 1 and part B as well. And we use a Moog saw on that one, and we just change the shape of the sound, change the symmetry and the hardening. I left it where it is. I haven't modulated those this time, but I've actually modulated the cutoff to my mod wheel, so the more I put on, so the more fizzy it gets, because I'm turning the cutoff up, and so I'm putting more energy into the harmonics to go through the wave shape, the ring mod and the FM. So I've done the FM, I've just brought it down the octave a bit, add a bit of shaping, symmetry, used a triangle this time just to make it softer, because I'm using softer sounds rather than harsh brittle ones. And you got a ring mod, and again I brought that down to give it more bassy tones, and I modulated the ring symmetry with an LFO as well. We'll go into that in a second. And the Waveshaper section, I've just added a touch. I haven't gone too mad, but enough just to give it a bit more crunch, because if I turn the wave shape off, you see we lose that fizz. So that's what it does. And on B, I've done something very similar, and you can see what settings you use there, just to give it some subtle shaping and warmth. If we look at the modulation section, as we can see, I've only used on part A. Remember what I said in my earlier videos is, if anything's blanked out, it means it belongs to another part. So if I click on B, they're part of B, but that belongs to A, those. And what I've done is looked at the ring mod symmetry and LFO on that one. Wheel is your mod wheel, and that ultimate cutoff. As you can see, the white thing there. And LFO2 is looking at the synth hard sync on part B, which is this parameter here, and it's also controlling the resonances, the LFO3 as well, just to give it a bit of movement. Now I've smoothed these LFOs out on here, but I haven't for the wheel, and that's just pure choice. If I wanted to, I could make it so it doesn't jump around, because if you watch that little white thing here, and I move my wheel, because I've got my mod wheel to a pedal and it's nice and smooth, if I turn that off, it's all like jerks. So there we go. So if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Please share the video so I can provide more content for you, and not just on Omnisphere, but other software synthesizers that I got in the pipeline that I want to do something like this series I'm doing with Omnisphere. So all I will say for now is thank you for watching. Ding that bell in the top right corner so you'll be notified when the next one's up, and waiting for your comments and your viewing. And thank you for now, and I'll catch you in the next one.